Bottom duty, they were the bottom of all the charter, to the Georgia Budget, to lot of the local about a lot of the region, the Mayo, the Yankee, sounds are low, the Leonardo, the Babila, the Bojo, so on the only Japan to the bottle, io trovo che oggi la so subito da che non da ba tutti da capacito camera 사자집을 보내더니 사람 가진 게 필요하래 얘는 가지 싶어야 돼 기차 같은 낭바 용도 그냥 쓸리 당 그바디 들마 나가다는 참 진짜 맞출 거야 그냥 쓸리 당 이거다 강시시 필요해 다 지네 자탕에 보시 시에 말때 맛있어서 빌어 공다 저 봤어 강시대 필요해
So yesterday I offered an introduction to you, my Dharma friends, on the profound fivefold path of Mahamudra, and this is a practice which is engaged in throughout all the lineages of Buddhism. So there are these 5 levels of practice, which all the lineages of Buddhism practice, and I have offered you this introduction to the best of my abilities, and it may not have been very good, so I apologize for that.
찔는데 그래서 와서 한 집에 내 방에 따왔더라 롱다를 빼 제라 뭐 마치 뭐었어 가지고 저리 사람을 봐 이런 사자치 뭐었어 아니 마마를 좁아치 뭐었어 진성 소리를 오나들이가 매직을 맹성 답하는 실리 삼지게 되나 동다 진바상 줘야지 며칠 맨손 답하는 지 차요래 각각 많이 받으니 통보요래 내 답보바 가다 답적은 양철이 뻗다면 양철이 땅때도 드라마자 많은 방 답서 양철이 탑 드라마자 도망만이 봐야 소소소소로 데르티는 각각 있는 사람이 정말요래 각각 말해야지 너는 나봐 사진 그랬더니 나와들래 대바니마도 대바니는 공탐을 대바들 사치도 없고 막상 보면 다 나들이 하람
So basically the Buddhist view can be condensed into the two truths, and it is given different names. Those who investigate these views through the scriptural tradition and through reasoning is called the Madhyamaka or Great Middle Way. And in the Kagyu lineage, which is the practice blessing lineage, it is called Mahamudra. And in the Nyingmapa lineage, it is called Dzogchen or Great Completion. So it is given 3 different names which refer to one and the same meaning. It is just like one person possessing 3 different names. So those who understand that the ultimate meaning will see it that way. They will not see any distinction. Some beginning practitioners may see a distinction, and they see that there are different approaches of practice, different levels of practice that are given different names. So they may think that the practices actually are separate. In actuality, there is no distinction between those practices. In brief, the entire Buddhist view comes down to the two truths only. And from the ultimate perspective, it is given the 3 names of Madhyamaka, Mahamudra, and Dzogchen.
되게 좁아치겠다. 또 양철이다. 파티 뭐람디는 차 타와 이거래. 그런데라 아니 도만이 뜨다 아송. 나서 호를 물라래 봐서 좀 생고 버릇도 봐. 홀비주스. 홀 생기답게 나도다가 진짜 동반이래서 저다한테는 형도 동반이래서 아, 동반이거다. 진짜 동반이래서 대내 통부 상지 거도다 뭐 홀비 생기 담지 창무자가 라왕매가 바로 채발게 근데 뭐 소생기도 좀 고와 자식이 땅사 바디다가 요리다 이 상계도 강사리 고와 탐에 버리지 적대로다들이 차대 요리 얘랑 kuntuzangpo ngongwa tawe chi na sepje tawe jani dirchik jingpo khartang choy dang charom tawe se ma zo to chobe tani tong tamba we tani semchi ngune zi yo ma re so dera na charom de namchik showa charom de ngune do ma re se tasli zo so na charom ga rang yi cho re so mala we semchi ma tong sa jien tong so wa ta 지금 sepji tansi 상무자가 라왕미 봐. 그래서 때리는 소 생을 가와다 내가 집을 열래. 어, tamsi 이제 반한 비는 보여. 오, 가서 상나 상지야로 살래.
So this aspirational prayer has or contains in its entirety the inner meaning of the Dzogchen teachings. And in Tibetan it begins with the word Chitta A, and that refers to the mind or the heart and emptiness. Milarepa has said that the grasping to reality is the cause for samsara. In actuality, the mind is empty of a self. It is empty of self-nature. So Chitta refers to heart or the mind, and A refers to emptiness. So this mind is empty in self-nature. And so in the prayer it says that although the ocean of samsara is very vast and very deep, to some it may appear to be endless, yet we possess the potential to attain enlightenment. Kuntuzangpo has seen that all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature. Like we said the other day, it is just like a frozen ice block. And the nature of mind is temporarily obscured only. In actuality, sentient beings do not really exist. They just are like temporarily frozen ice blocks that can be melted. That is to say that an ice block is not a rock, it's not a piece of stone. The ice block also is in the nature of water and can be melted. Therefore, Milarepa has said, I do not see sentient beings, I only see Buddhas. So without choice, we have the potential to attain enlightenment, and seeing that should generate great joy and bliss in our minds, like waking up from a dream and realizing, oh, I actually can attain enlightenment.
책가 자마도 공자 조서 취자 자마도 생가 자 조서 책가 자마도 공자 자지라 책가 제도들이 책가 바지는 취지 공부 제대로 오래를 제대로 장미 봐 얘나양 동담 대반이란데 진남이야 동담도 대발라 너어요래 취자 자마도 생가 자 조서 콘데 그 주탐지 삭지는 소나 나와 셈서 타지 셈이 동바로 타지 콘데 그 주탐지 셈그 맞지 봐 직접 매스 셈그 유자바들 파딱지 맞다는 조키를 철 셈을 딱지다나 랑그 셈그 내려 깊어서 도서잖아 콘데 그 주탐지 내리 맞지 봐 직접 좀 말해 저 똑같이 뭐야 동을 랑그 셈그 내려도 도서잖아 콘데 그 주탐지를 같이 찍을 놓는 조그이랑 조바지 대도성사는 람토 대인의 예매 빌는 제모소 되니 람탐비 코도 줘봐 족바 제모소 대라도 그러래 책 남으로 마보도나 공적도 되네 다도 딜로 오니까 그냥 코도 주사게 디스타게 그런데 동시 송선아 다 좋고요.
So Jetsunila Rebbe has said, do not cut the root of words, but cut the root of the meaning. Do not cut the root of phenomena, but cut the root of mind. So as for the first one, do not cut the root of words, but of the meaning. It means that there is many words to be said. Regarding the Dharma, there are 84,000 different aggregates of Dharma teachings, and each one of them, again, is divided into 84 different branches. So there are an infinite number of different Dharma teachings, but they all come down to one essential meaning, and that is the true truth. And the true truth, again condensed, comes down to the ultimate truth. Then when he says, do not cut the root of phenomena, but cut the root of the mind, it is to say that all phenomena of samsara and nirvana are contained or included within the mind. As it is said in Mahamudra, resolve that all appearances are created by mind, and resolve that the mind is empty of self-nature. Thus all appearances are empty of self-nature. So all phenomena within samsara and nirvana are created by the mind. Therefore, do not project outward and investigate each and every phenomena, but look inward and investigate the mind. If you only realize this mind, then you have realized the nature of all phenomena within samsara and nirvana. The path of Dzogchen, the great completion, is the supreme path which shows the same thing, that all phenomena are complete. It's called the great completion. All phenomena are complete, included within the mind itself. Therefore, it is the most supreme path. So although there are many words to be explained, it all comes down to one single meaning and one single path, and that is to resolve that all phenomena within samsara and nirvana are included within this mind.
이래저래 정말 나시 거대 탑재 권수 낭진서 버직진으로 줬다 낭진 다만 낭게 요래 낭시 반데라더니 손 돌들더니 호와가 냐데 니리 호와라 마로 고도아를 쪽 그래 나데가 살았더니 사지 거성 것이 감 정리 봐 아니 그거 다 효과가 다 들이래 별로 타이 발에 야치자 땡사봐 대답을 얘네요 아긴 콘데 탐지 대답이 야치와 땡사봐 콘데 니와데 이제 랑인 제비 이제는 즉발을 했어 이제는 즉발하더니 랑이다 제비 했어 랑이다 강대지 별나 농보 치보지 차잖아 농보 치보지 뭐 야지요 저 야가에도 오만 저 지요래 또 마소로 사잡았더니 속요래 제가 농보 찍으러 그래 제가 차잖아 이제 적대 강해 대식 좀 보세요 또 대식 좀 보. 섬스탑도 소리 좀 봐. 네. 네나 섬동반인데 마 코라사고 뭐 나도 좀 나도 좀 샘들었더니 마 코라 차요. 나도 좀 봐라더니 뉴모 봐 쪽지 레레 쪽쪽쪽지 뉴모 봐 보고 제트지 좀 차네. 제르더니 노아를 또 뉴모 봐 쪽. 매도를 매도나지. 야, 조퍼산지 인핀세메 좀 저셀라는 거서. 다다 동네 말에 답대도 동서. 호바다 동네라. 제 강에서 나진에서. 다 나진에서 지고 사월들 마마마마마 사로요. 야, 조퍼산지 인핀세메 좀. 인핀을 넣었더니 그래 내가 사먹을 때와 타축 사지 사게 때와 사지 고성 시작하 근데 이제 도지가 개발하고 다 찍봤지 찍지 가르다 랑 생각대로 데레에서 제적을 남기다 되니 데레에서
So I have an announcement. There is a Honda CRV Silver with Virginia license plates. What is with this Honda? But the lights are on. Okay. तिला मोटा ठीक लॉक पाडे दो मोटा ठीक लॉक पाडे दो
लोक पार
लॉक पाडे दो लोक पार लो मोटा ची सिलोग ला मोटा ची रे वाला रुपचे सिलोग ला मोटा ला लॉक पाडे दो दी बेटर वे जोंग लो वा लॉक जोंग लो खरा मोटा इंसरे लॉक से बोलो मुझे
साचोक सम्मत है
What is that class committee announcement? Okay. So when the text begins, it says, everything appearance and existence, samsara and nirvana, has a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions. So everything, appearance and existence, everything that appears and exists within this world, the entire universe is condensed into samsara and nirvana. Nirvana is very, samsara is very vast. It consists generally of the 6 different realms of samsara, and nirvana consists of the infinite pure lands of the Buddha's three kayas. So both samsara and nirvana are infinite, very vast and very deep. And there is nothing that is not contained within samsara and nirvana. All phenomena are contained. So although it is very vast, it possesses one single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions. So the ground, the basis, is one and the same, just like one big tree. On a big tree, the trunk is growing up, and then there's the leaves and the branches on top, and all the fruits are growing, and then one goes down to the roots. The tree consists of many parts, upper part and lower part. Yet it has one single ground, one single basis. So this basis is likened to Buddha nature, the utterly clear mind, a union of clarity and emptiness. So then from this emptiness, which refers then to the lower part, samsara has arisen. So the lower part of the tree refers to samsara, which has arisen from the seed of self-grasping. Then from self-grasping, the 6 afflictive emotions have arisen, and each of those 6 afflictive emotions again possesses 6 more emotions, and then they are again divided until one gets to a number of 84,000 different afflictive emotions. So those 6 afflictive major emotions, just like the seeds of a flower, bring about the 6 realms of samsara. It is said in the 37 bodhisattva practices, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. So all the suffering that we experience within samsara arises from the self-grasping mind. So that is what is referred to with the lower part. This self-grasping is very heavy, and it makes one fall more and more down. Then it continues in the 37 bodhisattva practices. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. When we give rise to the altruistic mind that seeks the benefit of others, then temporarily we will be reborn as gods or humans, and ultimately we will achieve the state of Buddhahood. We will accomplish the pure lands of the Buddha's 3 kayas. So although samsara and nirvana are vast, they have one single ground, one single basis, and that is the nature of mind itself.
Revenity concrete, rectamatic comfortes, rectamatic, 생각 내놓대, 랑가랑라, 또다 마토고 치발해. 랑가 생각 내놓대, 아래 랑짜지, 랑가 시랍라더니, 라도 시랍, 랑가 시랍, 랑가 내놓을 또나, 랑가 시랍, 라를 랑짜지, 샘삽동 수족, 니 생각 내놓다, 다 찾겠지, 뭐, 똑같이 뭐, 맞지, 뭐, 강도죠. 생각 내놓, 저, 나와요. 랑가 내놓다, 랑가 하고서나, 생각 내놓, 통통아. 산지 대래. 생각 내놓 때는 통통아. 가입한 거 요랬지는, 생각 내놓 때 시랍라 때문에, 근데, 그걸 내가 규탐치, 맞다. 유모바다 나도그 당고 유모바다 나도샤 되게 레사 되게 박차냐 고와탐데 될 수도 있대 하고 요리 제가 각샤와 탐들 저봐요 말이 저봐면은 렉나 세군대로 광통통들이 상제리 대만 통원은 만통을 생지 걸려 나오냐 바다다 나다 다다 망아 나메 봐 나다 봐 나메 봐 나도 좀 와서 근데 동부터 주다가 나도 강탁도 되는 레전 마트 샘sem는 뭐 성급은 내려올 때였더니 요매 딱체 타게다 나와 수장되는 통마다가 또 사제마다 통마다 말에 대마 통을 좀 되게 들이다 산지 생기니 렉당 말에 점수가 좀 해서 대라 군도정보 공금모람기에 탐지 추지영 포랑들 추지영 포랑들 추지영들 딱 생근대로 돈이처럼 공부한 데 있나 탐지 주섬지 사지에 탐실라 ጭቅ 되나 그거요 사지 ጭቅ 타마를 잡지는 저거 사지 ጭቅ 탐지 상제라 야와 탐지 이실롱 ጭቅ 보지마 뒤등들에 내록 대나 추지영 대리 뒤등아 박제 타져다 잡아 뒤등아 탐지 뒤등아 문벌도 상자고 탐지 뒤제 내록 등들아 대 발소스 하고는 이제 내록 랑오랑 시지 봐 뒤등아 내록 뒤등아 탐지 내 잡아서
So it says has two fruitions and magically displays as awareness or unawareness. So these two fruition refers to either recognizing the nature of the mind or not recognizing the nature of the mind, realizing or not realizing it. When one realizes mind's nature, one directly beholds the self-knowing, self-illuminating intrinsic awareness. And when one realizes that through the wisdom looking at its nature, one realizes the union of clarity and emptiness, which is one's own intrinsic self-illuminating and self-knowing awareness. And that is given the name Mahamudra, Dzogchen, or Madhyamaka. It is given 3 different names. So what it comes down to is to understand and realize the nature of one's mind. If one directly beholds this nature, then this is the Buddha. This is enlightenment. So what is the benefit of that? Is that when through recognizing, through realizing with wisdom, one recognizes that the manner in which samsara is established, and one sees that first afflictive emotions or thoughts arise within the mind, then we engage in action, so we accumulate karma, and these karmas leave an imprint in our minds, they form a propensity, and in this way samsara is established. So when one understands that, one will not grasp at whatever arises within the mind, and if there is no grasping within the mind, one directly sees the clear nature of mind itself, and that is the inner Buddha. Those who do not see this nature, they hold on to a self where there is no self. When one actually looks inside and investigates this self, one will not find it within the body, and one will also not find it being established anywhere within the mind. If one looks at this nature directly as it is, one sees that it is free from existence or non-existence. It is free from the 4 extremes. There is nothing whatsoever to be seen. That is the self-knowing intrinsic awareness. So then Kuntuzangpo forms a prayer saying, through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all beings become Buddhas, completely perfected in the abode of the Dharma Dhatu. So when the abode of the Dharma Dhatu refers to like the palace of the actual, the expanse of reality. It refers to the nature of the mind or Vajradhara. That is encompassing the Buddhas of the 3 times, and one can say that one single Buddha, or the nature of one's mind, encompasses all the Buddhas of the 3 times, because it is said all the victorious ones share one single wisdom expanse, and that is the nature of one's own mind, which is beyond eternalism or nihilism. It is beyond the four extremes. So Kuntuzangpo is praying, may all sentient beings become perfectly complete enlightened in that state. May they see their own face. May they recognize their own intrinsic awareness.
군지 저는 드마지랑 종롱양 주의 매스 아무 소생 기타죠 군지에 대다 세분 내로 통망통이가 많이 봐 세분 이제들 군지에 군지에들 고대지게 이제 드마지 죄마도 이지마지 가양 맞으지 드마지 봐야만 가양 맞아 더 차라리 차례돼 봐. 통야 따와는 데 봐. ramzong ongyang gyu de me de nakha ta ga de te ta 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 naro ta ji ke seven de ro ko de mari gyu ji me de rang ne li yang li sa la ji pa ta thong ko ma mari gyu ji yo ma ta sam gyu me so sa ji ke ya na sam gyu me ta ole te ta re ramzong ongyang gyu de me de se pe nakha ta le 낙하들 주 낙하 통성들 낙하 통구요리 돼. 또 낙하들 가리 다 가리를 그 가리게 되나. 예 가도라서 딱게 싸와리 되는 좀 못도 사이 온 말이. 그냥 동양매 봐. 동양매 봐. 철새그대로 딱게다. 수장 동양 이런 말이 되나. 동양매 봐도 가면 끼안 맞아 봐. 그냥 맞아 봐. 네 맛이 봐지 안에. 동양요 말이지. ramzol로야 유드메지. 세부 지할 때라 다다. 마통을 걸었더니 호박을 먹나 요 말이지. 이제는 봐. 까리 다 봐. 이제 다 나빠도 맞다고. 싹동성 쪽에 호박을 먹나 도지 요 말이지. 사지를 먹나 도지만 통 말이지. 내로 마통을 봤을 뭐 상견론에 대해나 다다 사지를 공부 마도 오빠들 사지 뭔가 따지면 새끼 뭔가 따지면 가요 맹미지 내가 따와는 거 내로 똑바 데려는데 저기서 보고 쏘는 참 내로들 sakshi, jokshi, kanga men yo mara, men de yori suka nzipa de, men de taksa yori de nzipa de yora, nzipa yo tsana de septi de ruk tangwa chakri yo mara, kaya nzipa me pa de ruk tela, na tam kyo me de nzipa me pa, men dang tima len de pa a zong, da tela rang dong long ya gyu de me, ma ni tawa ni gyu ya yo mara, rang 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 sa ma po, so so rang kadui thona de ma so, gyu ya yo mara eso. 고대 지금 맹미 또 이대로 돼 수게 통나 라니가 통나 되니 렌다 사제데 마르크센지 고바는 장 렌다 sab도는 과다지 도도서 지나는 내서 죽을 상제래 깨지 제가 상제래 상제는 저 바삭지 상존 예들 선 sab도 나가다가 내요리 거네 상제래 말을 섭진 고한자 섭진은 나오 나발 저발 나메바 나오냐 저발 좋네 제래들이 자다가 똑바지더니 당포와들 좁비를 될 말을 섭진 그랬다 말이 좀 저래서
And then it continues saying, the ground of all is compounded, and the self-arising great expanse beyond expression has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. So the ground of all refers to the nature of one's mind, and within this nature there is nothing to be seen, and there is no seer. And everything is contained within this mind's nature. Everything within samsara and nirvana is grounded within this nature of the mind. And this nature of mind, this ground of all, is uncompounded. Uncompounded means it is non-established. It lacks inherent existence. It lacks any substantial self-sufficient existence. There's nothing to be seen whatsoever. It is beyond expression and therefore abides like the expanse of space. When one sees the nature of the mind as it is, this nature is beyond verbal expression. It cannot be articulated with words. This is the lineage of the practice blessing lineage, where we realize mind's nature through the transmission, but we cannot express the with words or conceptions. So it is that it is inexpressible, being beyond conception and beyond description. The outer example of mind's nature is the sky, the vast expanse of the sky. We can look up and see the sky, but then we cannot really point the finger at the sky and say, where is its boundary, where is its center, what is its shape, what is its color. We cannot determine these qualities of the sky. These cannot be seen. So when one looks inward at the mind itself, then in a like manner, there is nothing whatsoever to be seen. There is nothing that is established that possesses any characteristics within the mind. So that is what is meant with the ground of what is uncompounded. There is nothing to be seen whatsoever. So when one directly sees the nature of the mind as it is, one recognizes that this cannot be given any name, neither samsara or nirvana, nor the Buddha or sentient beings. It is a union of clarity and emptiness and abides like the expanse of space. It is utterly pure from the very beginning, and it cannot be given any name. Until one has realized the enlightened intent of the Buddhas, one gives it the names Buddha or sentient being, but in actuality it cannot be determined by such names. Lord Chipton Sungen has said, mind's nature cannot be given any name. It cannot be called Mahamudra or Dzogchen. These are only imputation or names. And as soon as one grasps at a name, it is a mental fixation. And if there is a mental fixation, one does not directly behold the nature of mind as it is. So when one releases all mental fixation, then one will realize the state which is inexpressible beyond description and conception. It is transcending words and characteristics. It cannot be expressed with speech. It can only be realized by one's own self-knowing, self-illuminating awareness in an instant. Whenever one sees this nature, it is realized, but it cannot be expressed by any words or names. So then it says, so regarding this it says, and the self-arising great expanse beyond expression has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. Realizing just this, you are a Buddha. Not realizing this, you are being wandering in samsara. So realizing this self-illuminating awareness, that will lead to the realization of Dharmakaya, which is the inner Buddha. And that can be realized in any moment, in an instant, upon direct realization. So the word Buddha in Tibetan means Sangye, and the first syllable Sang refers to a purifying of all fixations, of all grasping. And Ye refers to abiding vast, like the expanse of the sky. The union of clarity and emptiness abides vast like the sky. This is enlightenment. Not realizing this, through ignorance, one grasps at a self where there is no self, and depending on this grasping to a self, the thoughts of attachment and aversion will arise, and in this way samsara is created. All these are the magical displays of the mind. It says it magically displays as either awareness or unawareness.
Dilatini kamsam septin tamche ye jud me be jidong par cho jud me ba ngani jud me ba rang na thong go yo te jud jidong par cho Kuntuzangpo ani ya ji me ba je to ni je le ram zong re o ta Kuntuzangpo khong kang le de rang re ba rang zong re ba de je me je ma ki 저 강나야 마주봐. 다들 이제 되는 거 조금 이제 저 공부 같다. 남카다고. 소통 남카다고 돼. 이제 대래 ram종을 빠지. 빠다다 ram종을 빠지는 다 세고 내lok도 빠탑지. 세고 내lok도 빠탑지. 무슨 것이게요. 옷이 빠지다. 설담도 책을 통을들이 송거요면 동국보지 랑거랑거 마펑거 받아 이지 지금 말이 동국보 가르리들을 뺀다다 남편은 그 나와도 타를 보니 남편은 그 나한테리 하자 타를 보니 나한테는 좀 못좀 나한테리 좀 못좀 바라기 동국보들이 나한 것을 랑거 세고 내로 가져 돌아지 랑거 타 주바지 동야 요리 제 생지식 좀 그런 이제 사제 이 제출을 때래 근데 나도 가진 통로들이 나다 줘봐 동야 요리 그랬더니 대 주도 매 이제 동들 빨리 좀 뻗어서 뭐 그런 거 돈남을 했지
So then it continues here. I pray that all you beings of the three realms may realize the true meaning of the inexpressible ground. So this ground cannot be expressed verbally, and so that means that it can only be seen through one's own realization. Only oneself, through directly seeing one's own awareness, can realize its nature. So there it says, I, Kuntuzangpo, have realized the truth of this ground, free from cause and condition, which is just the self-arising awareness. So Kuntuzangpo refers to the self-arising awareness inherent within one's own mind. And that self-arising means it is not created by causes and conditions. It has arisen, self-arisen. It abides like the expanse of the sky, and it is a union of clarity and emptiness. So all those who have realized this nature, this self-arisen intrinsic awareness, may use some approximate words or terminology to point at its nature, but in actuality, until one has directly seen or realized this self-arising nature, one will not have a firm conviction in this nature. So in actuality, it abides like the expanse of space, and when we talk about this in terms of the view, it may seem to be very distant. We say it cannot be pointed at with one's finger, and this is this high view. In actuality, it is inherent within one's mind, and whenever one directly sees the nature of the mind, whenever one looks at its nature, one may see this self-arisen intrinsic awareness at any moment. It refers to one's own Buddha nature, the basis of one's own mind. That is the enlightened Buddha, and whenever one sees this nature, one has gained confidence in the nature. And so it is Samantha Bhadra's prayer that all sentient beings may recognize this self-arising true nature.
대니 이제래 ram종을 빠디 공급배 책 long 대단한 통수는 홍화당, 투바당, 나외 투바당 이를 뒤 통수 되는 거 열 많이 받았다고 자치와 땡사빠지 연나양 대 물라리 배송을 강리지 타마시바 김바도 어쩌다 냠니 라면에 갑자다 대땅 통카보지 가이거리지 다다 매 소소소소 요리 샘도 요리 요리 가리리 랑사모다나 랑그 샘을 랑그 쳤더니 심피 이거 사와사와 코 제거요 코면 찍다 제거 말하거든요 미치 속에야 다들 되는 이 초보가 그러나 네 가리가 또 것도 찍잖아요 네 샘능을 빡하를 빠샤를 뿌이는 통고도 좀 하고 심피 시바 네네 타말 시바지만 소소상은 요다 요 이제 만들어야 돼 근데 강에서 람성으로 봤지 근데 저거 줄에 강에서 딱 강의용 딱제 동사용만 다보 강에서 다다 강는데 타마 강으로 제가 내 좀더 저랑을 과도 딱제더라 호대서 콩 싸운 톱고 용 말이 거래 되잖아 될때니 다다 소속해 오통 가버려서 하야 말해 다다 요다 요 이제 말해 랑게 자진 그 시바 되래지 남시 되면 알아 그래서 남발 시바 남지 세 연락 독주 사하신 대 첫독주잖아 그리고 랑은 뭐 광 첫독주잖아 다 맹도 다 갖고 다 대변 통유요 말 좀더 생기요 말 짜는 해야 요 말이 다 되니 배 가게 갖고 있고 단 대리에서 뭐 레도 뭐 가라 랑그 관대리 관대 우리 좀네 시바 신분이들 파서 열 남도 통기 시반데 대성 대독주 출 마셔가지고 대유는 못 정도 대대고 차나 다다 열이 나서라 대리 이제 ranzong을 봐야 돼. ranzong을 정도 봐야 돼. 자연 상호 땅이면 남자들 가서 상호 땅나 하고래. 대라 선나 로고를 좀 맞다시. 이 살아도 되나? 살아요 말이지. 양 망을 핑핑 요도 봐요. 나나도 되나 나는 요 말이 서로 여기 꼭 작가다 복까지 가와나라게. 작가나 복까지 가와는 로뉴선도 참아 쟁을 요르와. 그 샘도 탑지 요르와. 다 주로 봐도 가와도야. 살아도 나는도 자라도 자라도 딱겠다. 그래서 살도 하고 말과 나는도 하고 말이. 생각 가요 하고 말이. 너한테 잡대버라지. 서낭지. 로 거든. 오르빠는 독되는 맹다사 요 말이. 요발 로다들. 요들 꼭 강화도 역하도 지마.激动 도사 요 말이. 다 매적되나? 다들 요빠 많이 자외 담아서 매빠 많이 고대 거지죠. 요들 옆다 가도 사제가 타고 말이지. 통고 말이지. 매빠 많이 고대지가 그 제그 우리 제가 다 빼 갖고 있어서 로거든. 요대 동조야 매지. 요 말이 돼. 해줘 매스다. 나 로거 좀 맞다시. 로거 좀 독사 요 말도 거기 좀 지니가.
So this self-arising intrinsic awareness cannot be determined through being seen, cannot be seen, it cannot be heard of, nor can it be thought of. It is beyond the intellect. It is very vast and deep, and Milarepa has said it is just this present, ordinary, naked awareness, consciousness. So when we apply this to practice, it may seem to be very difficult to realize, but it is something that is not beyond one's own mind. It is something that one can recognize for oneself if one simply looks inward. When you look inside your own mind, this awareness, this self-arisen awareness is nothing but the clear knowing capacity that knows all the actions, all the things that are to be accomplished in this world. So for example, when you have a cup of water, it is that awareness that recognizes this cup of water and understands its function, and that it can be drunk and so forth. So it is this clear knowing capacity and this clear knower, which is this self-arisen awareness. So this self-arisen awareness cannot be found anywhere. When you look inward and you question where is this awareness, where has it arisen from, where does it abide, and where does it go in the end, you will not be able to determine that. If you look inside, you will not be able to locate this awareness. So it is very difficult to determine its existence. So therefore it can be determined to be non-existing, and yet it cannot said to be non-existing either. So it is difficult to directly behold its nature. And yet it is there right now at present. It is this present naked awareness that can be recognized at any time. Milarepa has put it simply saying it is that knowing awareness, this clear knowing capacity that knows which actions to engage in. So if you look at that awareness itself, you cannot determine it, you cannot give it any name, it cannot be seen, and if you look for it, you will not find it. For a beginning practitioner, when you look inside your own mind, it is this clear knowing capacity, that knower that sees all the thoughts and mental arisings within the mind, and that is what needs to be investigated, and that is what is present within your mind right at this moment. So in this way you can understand this self-arisen awareness. So then here it continues saying, it is unstained by outer expression and inner thought, affirmation or denial, and is not defiled by the darkness of unmindfulness. Thus the self-manifesting display is free from defects. So it cannot said to be either outer, abiding outside externally, and it can also not said to be abiding internally. It pervades everything. So you cannot say it is somewhere else external, like it is somewhere in India, or it is in China, or it is in Tibet, but it also is not captured within. It pervades everything. So in brief, we can say that this mind transcends the inner and the outer and pervades everything. So that it says it is beyond affirmation or denial, and it is not defiled, and also it is free from any defects. When you look within, it is beyond affirmation or denial, meaning it is beyond existence or non-existence. So when you look inside and you look for its existence, you will not find anything. It possesses no form, no shape, no color, no characteristics. There is nothing to be seen whatsoever. And at the same time, you cannot say it does not exist, because it is the one who creates all of samsara and nirvana. And yet it is free from any defects, as it is primordially pure.
Sanatokor Chumada, Jimmy Member Chamakus, and Dirita, Jimba Salvo, Dira, Musota, Yami Chematam, oh, Jimba Salvo, Salami, sometimes Jimma maybe called Jimma Mivachaki. I don't dare it, Jimmy Member Chamakus. The Kuntuzangpo, Jimba maybe dramatic, Jimba maybe dramatic Maguba. They, the Kuntuzangpo is, there's a running two Magus, running solar Nepala Aso. They thought me running answer, Rakwaran solar Nedina. Kuntuzangpo, they, the Passola Nepala system, you can contract me the room or a chapa mess. Under the system you can in the room or the chapa miso. Now, same is a me para the chicks apache. The Muchima, you married now. They to marry. Now, same is a me. The Jalani and the Lamana. The body, come on, you can one of them. Now, same is a me. System you can mean the room or a chapa mirror. The room or a chapa made. Require I want near dinner. Require I want near dinner. Require I saw the pandilla, penna. You didn't come to the tongue soon, Della. You know your marriage. You don't be what call it. What call it? Double the Sagang the Shakton. What call it? Changing your marriage. Joy, Mapilla, Ginger, Magic, but calling your marriage. Then the Tacha goes to William. Nowadays, now it's Jamata every day. Jamata Pellet, Joiner, and Tata. Yatom with the Marshall, or Teta, India. So some Jamata, met the room or the Chapa, met the way on the Tapilla, Chapa Shimba, met the Pastor. Tommy Shibaram Zong Last, the head of it, Sir Yolo. Doctor may be Shibaram don't tell her, the best doctor, Tonga mess. The jig, Shatas, the Sasa doctor, Tonga mess. There, the best doctor, the jig, Shatas doctor, Tonga, you know Tonga, your marriage, Tonga mess.
But then it continues, I Kuntuzangpo abide as intrinsic awareness, even though the 3 realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. And so, coming back to the defects or the faults, generally it is said that this awareness is free from defects, it is clear and free from any faults. When it comes to practice, sometimes we are aware and sometimes we are unaware, and when we are unaware, then this is where the faults arise from. So this clear knowing mind, though, the nature of mind itself is free from those defects at all times. So it refers that the clear knowing capacity itself is free from the defects of distraction. So when one sees the nature of mind as it is, this clear knowing, self-knowing capacity, one directly sees the enlightened intent of Kuntuzangpo. And so he says, even though the 3 realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. If one abides within the nature of one's own intrinsic awareness, then even if the entire universe would come to an end, there is no fear. That is because although the universe may be destroyed, one's own awareness can never be destroyed, as one's own awareness has not been created by causes and thus cannot be destroyed by conditions. It is beyond causes and conditions. It is self-arisen. It is just like a TV where a movie is playing. It arises and again like something arises and then again it comes to a cessation, and nobody really has created that. It is just like an illusion. One recognizes the entire universe to be just like that. It arises, it comes to a cessation, and at the same time it is an illusion. So there is no fear. There is no attachment to the 5 desirables of sense objects. There is neither solid form nor the 5 poisons. So if there is no solid form, which refers to one's own compounded body of flesh, blood, and bones, if that is not existing, then in the same way, the 5 afflictive emotions inside do not exist.
대연아 다단디 서점직장 하자면도 용어를 잡고 하면데 디 뉴버 속도 동아메이소 민몽 동아나 대례송들이 레나바나도 살들이 바차를 르듯이 여래 르듯 요나들이 정상 탑들 르듯의 용어를 빼나 대다워서 꽝시티라 되니 빼나 집에 저기랑미 동안면 이렇게 사차들 되니까 군도당포 돌지 장대 되라 제주가 되라서 봐 이전에 매봤대 마수다 깨다고 성분대로 돌지 장 성분대로 통화 탐색에 너희들이 계속 가야 매봤다고 되라 스스로도 마다야 뭐 이런 거를 잡아야 뭐 딱딱 남이 재미 탐색을 하고 그러라 양서 말아와 탐색을 가지나 상에 양 대통령이 또도 맞도 제봤더니 되라 대다 제사했다 가 시식을 제사를 동물과 맛이나 야고가 맛이사 야고가 강 시시 됐어 강 시시 쇼고가 어서야 대통령 사열을
So it says, even though the 3 realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear, there is no attachment to the 5 desirable qualities of sense objects. So we give rise to the 5 afflictive emotions, and depending on these, we engage in action that accumulate karma, and these karmas leave an imprint within our mind. And so these imprints establish the bodies, establish the forms. All the fears that we are experiencing, we actually are experiencing independence on this body. So those who recognize their own intrinsic awareness, they abide within the clarity of their own mind, and recognize that this state itself, which is called Samantabhadra or Vajradhara, it is beyond cessation, it is beyond death. If you investigate, that nature of the mind itself is Vajradhara. There is no fear of destruction, as this mind is beyond destruction. Then there is no attachment to the 5 desirables. That is something that true practitioners will understand, and how that comes about. Those who do not practice will not really understand that, and will have many doubts about that. And so again, where the difference lies is with either recognizing or not recognizing mind's nature. So I'm just explaining to the best of my abilities.
Reposacha manga bango chikla yishinga po mabale Thomas Hajer nga so tini di razong repa yishi chenpo de la ngo chikla yishinga so koto zambu gomba tata nga so rangi repo ngo de la koto zambu gomba de so rangi repo ngo chikpa re de sher de yana ngô chích de rākpa sā tōng sōng de jōpa te la ngô chích de la isi ngā kakā mā yin pa pēni shēr de la jima jom la pēni jā sōng ngā kakwa kāngu re pē te tawa sāngshok sēmtān jen la sēmtē shik yin bō te sāngshok sēmtān jen la tēni te la sāngshok kōsōng ku yōng tīng yōng ku yō re te tāng chē sōng ku yō re sēng ngô chích de la isi ngā sōng te la ngô chích la isi ngā te kārē 생 오지바 포랑의 용띠 제도가 말이야. 강리. 혼대가 주탑저 랑지 그 보러더니 랑지가 지금 샤려고 요래. 메롱을 중히다 샤려고 요래. 제일 중히다 샤려고 들 메롱을 즈바이가 말이야. 메롱을 강샤라들 주도가. 제일 메롱도 혼대가 주탑저 랑지 샤 양샤리도 동 샤리도 동고 좀 샤용을 요래. 제가 메롱답이 시지. 샤용을 들었더니 오 좀배가 오 즈바요 말이야. 즈바면 탐지 장이 강찬한테 냐바이지 시소. 야. 냐바이지 시는 코대가 추탑지 됐다거나 제가 내로 뭐니 변나. 따다다. 돈이 집대에도 돈이 여발고 쏟다다. 유모바 나빠도 발라서 샤네 대탐체를 저바쇼도 제대로 준비해 서면 돈이 준비해 차증 저바 고대가 주 대화도 또게 쫙 차증 저바 진거요 소소적으로 많이 봐 저 소소도 보시라 소소도 보이시지 사와 저보이 시드는 사제 거성 뭐 용딩 탐제 별로 나카 같이 sem지 동 제대로 봐도 천에서 배도 막고 라미 저기거리 별은 이마고 오든 배도 보고 말이 됐다고 이시가들 라미가 됐다고 람종들이 배도 잡아 여기 집어가 대요래 이시가 뭐 대래 제일 말이 파 제소들이 이시가에 따라서 자동 죽게 다 봤어 자동 죽게 다 봐. 또 때다 때도 담바를 잡았더니 저와도 다다 가자 찍을 일하시고 담바를 잡한 거요. 제 생문대로 될때 라지 용기 제대로 참고 요래. 마다르다 고발이 저도 다나 다 와사지기 시간 보다 시간들이 잡혀요. 답은 하와라들 그것도 잠깐 가와든 저마마 줘라. 다다 무슨 저와도 또 때도 라이 저걸 차로 요래. 라지를 저 요래서 대리 시사제바 사지 집저사지 좀 당 사지 집저사지 좀 이신가들 사지 집저사 저와 집저사니 지신가에 잡들 차종 쪽저 타봐 그래서 저를 철마명 이제도 봐대 마천을 대답을 저바마 주로 대답해 라라 고당시 가면 여도요 레서 누나
Then it continues in the unceasing clarity of awareness, singular in essence, there yet arises the display of the five wisdoms. From the ripening of these five wisdoms, the five original Buddha families emerge. So this self-arisen wisdom, self-knowing wisdom, has one single essence, and that essence or one single nature is the enlightened intent of Samantha Bhadram. And this enlightened intent can be recognized to be same in nature as the nature of our own mind. It is just like a crystal. The crystal itself refers to the one single nature, the nature of the unity of clarity and emptiness. And so this nature possesses 5 qualities which refer to the 5 types of wisdom. Just like when the sun rays shine upon the crystal, then the house is filled with the 5 different rainbow lights. In the same way, if Buddha nature meets with bodhicitta, then the qualities of the 3 Buddhakayas will naturally emerge, or the 5 wisdoms will naturally emerge as qualities or features of this one single nature. So this one single nature of mind possesses 5 different qualities, which are called the 5 wisdoms, which naturally arise. So all phenomena within samsara and nirvana have arisen from this ground. And all those phenomena are reflected within this nature of mind, just like the reflection in a mirror. From the side of the mirror, there is no fixation to those reflections. Anything is feasible to be reflected within this mirror. There is simply no engagement or fixation. All phenomena without fixation arise within this nature of mind, and it is recognized, they all are recognized to be illusion-like. That understanding is called the mirror-like wisdom. So then one has recognized the nature of this mind, and one refrains from engaging in any fixation. If one does not fixate, then there is no difference between good and bad. Everything is equanimous. Everything is an equanimity or equal. That refers to the wisdom of equanimity. So if all phenomena are realized to be equal in taste, one does not engage in any fixation, and one recognizes the empty nature of cause and effect. So whatever arises within this mind, afflictive emotions or concepts, generally, if ordinarily one fixates to those concepts, one will accumulate karma, and one will be under the law of the incontrovertibility of cause and effect. When one recognizes this nature, one recognizes that all the different aspects of this mind that appear within the mind, afflictive emotions and so forth, are recognized to be by this awareness are recognized to be the various different manifestations of happiness and suffering. So there is made a clear distinction between happiness and suffering and its causes. And so this clear discerning capacity is called the individually discriminating wisdom. Then the all-accomplishing wisdom, that is the enlightened qualities of the Buddhas, naturally perform the welfare of sentient beings through performing enlightened deeds free from any effort, just naturally, just like the sun rays shining, free from any effort and just naturally. So they are self-arisen and free from any effort, perform the enlightened deeds for the benefit of sentient beings. So those 5 qualities or 5 wisdom naturally arise within the mind. And then each of those 5 wisdoms again is divided into 5, and then they are further divided, and one comes to the where it says here the 60 wrathful deities and the 42 peaceful deities. Then it says, and through the expanse of their wisdom, the 42 peaceful Buddhas appear. Through the arising power of the 5 wisdoms, the 60 wrathful Herukas manifest. Thus the ground awareness is never mistaken or wrong. If from the perspective of a pure perspective, if one recognizes this awareness, it will accomplish naturally the pure lands of the Buddhas. Not recognizing this awareness will lead to the creation of samsara. Basically, if one doesn't fixate to any thoughts arising in the mind, then naturally the mandalas of the peaceful and wrathful deities will be established. So if there is no grasping at whatever arises within the mind will transform into the pure lands or into the deity.
Tom Sanjay Ngai Bes, I Mola Tabai, Captain Corus, Ginger, Abdul Rupang, Oshile, 이시죠 타제 쇼서 라도를 빠는 옷이나 갔다면서 어디 최근에 라를 잡고 잡어라 이제 준비 자사신 거지 이제 준비 그 자사들 빨아서 세요요 빨아서 세이들을 라를 잡고 잡어야 따위 이서 갔다 송지 어디라다 통카집지 탐제 배나 플라이트 구는 저들이 가자 저걸 릴러를 싹 담배 마시 또 담바르지 저걸 생감다 그래 접촉을 때다 디스통스 가당성세 답지 답이 자올라 아송이 동디는 저거요 동지 봐라 될 이제 좀 자사 마지나 대답 맨세 이제 좀 자사 세고서 다 라를 소라네 봐라 봐라서 세되나 저 봐라 촉탑되는 다다다 가서 답제 대답 찾고요 해지
Then it continues, I, Kuntuzangpo, am the original Buddha of all, and through this prayer of mine, may all you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara realize this self-arising awareness, and may your great wisdom spontaneously increase. It is a prayer saying, may all sentient beings, may all beings recognize this self-arising intrinsic awareness, and that refers to the teaching from yesterday on the fivefold path, where we say you have to mount the royal seat of seeing your own body to be the form of the deity. So that is what is referred to taking the awareness, taking its own seat. One recognizes one's own awareness to be in the nature of the deity. One recognizes that one's aggregate sense sources and elements are in the nature of the deity. And through this recognition, they will transform into the mandala of the deity. So one single person may transform into the pure lands of all the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. So this is referring exactly to what we have talked about yesterday, when we take the royal seat of seeing our own body to be the body of the deity. So when we talk about awareness holding its own seat, then this is what is being referred to.
다 산지 까는들이 나를 뒷바값을 가다 냠이 오빠 탑재가 라나게 냠수 용을 오 냠이 싫었대 대리 야마 뒷바싸오 르과랑 속 뒷바값을 내가 뭐 세상도 샤로나 세상도 샤마 다들 메로도 갔 오 세상 돌때서 말이 저도도 갔 오 한글 저과랑 속 신을 됐다 그래 마지는 좀 됐다 마지는 레사 그거리 그냥 뭐 배. 그는 거절해. 빨아서 신소로 대다를 소소한지 봐. 냠리라. 이거 뒤에 대다는 독 싸움을 랑랑을 타서 이치 톱이야 이거래. 타를 뭘 따지요 말이야. 랑을 세고 내려고 내대 볼까라. 이거 뭐 같아. 좋고 로바트들이 살을 좋고 이거래 배나. 랑랑을 이치 제거해야지.
So this is the authentic speech of the Buddha, and those people who have engaged in practice and have gained some experience and hearing that will think, oh, this is what it is referring to. They will have a confidence in that. So when one maintains a clear stream of mindfulness, that is what is meant with awareness holding its own seat. When awareness holds its own seat, then, for example, when anger arises, it will disappear upon arising. The anger will transform into vajrasattva. So when one takes this seat, when awareness holds its own seat, when one is non-distracted, then one will immediately, the afflictive emotions will immediately dissipate back into the mind. Otherwise, if one doesn't take the seat of awareness, then one will give rise to afflictive emotions and grasp at them, engage in action, and that will serve as the cause for further samsara. It is up to oneself, for one's own awareness to hold its own seat. The qualities for doing so, the potential, are contained within oneself, and all that one needs to cultivate is a conviction in this potential. One shouldn't think that this is something that is very distant and very far away. this awareness of the mind's nature itself, if awareness or if recognition is maintained, then whatever afflictive emotions appear in that instant, they will be liberated and transform into the deity. So in this way, one must gain a confidence, a trust in one's own inner awareness. So then my emanations will continuously manifest in billions of unimaginable ways, appearing in forms to help you beings who can be trained. So the emanations of Samantabhadra or of the Buddha appear continuously. So from the perspective of those whose mind stream has not been ripened and who are to be ripened, various Nirmanakaya manifestations appear in order for them to be tamed. So they appear in various forms that they can be seen, heard of, touched, or thought of. A myriad Nirmanakaya emanations appear, and they appear also in the different bodies in the 6 realms of samsara, according to the needs of sentient beings. Amongst the human beings, they appear as people, such as our lamas, our teachers, or doctors, physicians, or anybody who brings about the benefits and welfare of sentient beings. Anybody who brings about the happiness of sentient beings can said to be a Nirmanakaya emanation of the Buddha. These are called the external Nirmanakaya emanations. So the internal Nirmanakaya then refers to one's own true nature, one's own Buddha nature that pervades the minds of all sentient beings. Lord Chikden Sungön has said, all sentient beings' minds are pervaded by the Buddhas. The Buddhas are inherent within the minds of all sentient beings. And this Buddha nature is called the perfection of wisdom or the self-arising awareness. And basically it is one's own mindfulness and one's own inner wisdom. It is always present, and once there is a mind, this awareness is present, whether one has realized this awareness or not. As the Buddha has said, all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature, only temporarily they are obscured by stains. So what are those temporary stains? Those stains are our own fixations to the self. And from these self-grasping minds, the 5 afflictive emotions arise, and gradually we form the 4 obscurations. So these 4 obscurations are the subtle obscurations to all-knowingness, and then the obscurations of afflictive emotions, the obscurations of karma, and the obscurations of karmic propensities. So gradually the water becomes a frozen ice block. So internally, this Nirmanakaya refers to one's own Buddha nature that pervades the minds of all sentient beings. Gampopa has said, the cause is Buddha nature within, the support is the precious human incarnation, and the condition is the spiritual friend, is the teacher. So the spiritual friends are those actual teachers that we are encountering in this life. These are Nirmanakaya manifestations of the Buddha, and they are manifold. There is the arisen, the created, the myriad, and many more Nirmanakaya manifestations of the Buddha. According to the Vajrayana, one recognizes through pure perception anything that brings a benefit to sentient beings to be an emanation of the Buddha. For example, a tree can be seen as a Nirmanakaya emanation. So for example, a tree gives the refuge for various little life forms like animals who have taken on without choice an inferior incarnation due to their ignorance. So the tree gives them protection, like a house and so forth. So all these are emanations of the Buddha. The Buddha appears in whichever form necessary in order to tame sentient beings. So that is what is meant with appears in unimaginable ways continuously. So we have obtained a precious human incarnation, which is the support, and this support enables us to attain enlightenment within only one single lifetime, within only one single body. So we have the cause, Buddha nature, and the support, the precious human incarnation. And still, if we do not encounter the condition, which is the spiritual friend, we will not attain enlightenment within one single lifetime, within one single body. So all these causes for enlightenment and happiness and benefit of sentient beings must be recognized to be an emanation of the Buddha. And especially the Guru, the teacher that we encounter, we cultivate a conviction and awareness of this Guru to be the actual Buddha. So the Buddha manifests in whatever way necessary to train sentient beings. And when we understand that, then we will cultivate a devotion and pure perception towards anything.
나도 나의 특징 보나 이제 감성 콜을 생기고 럭내에 되버리고 감성 생쥐 탐지 들다가 저 생쥐 탐지야 야들식 좀 보여 그 들바다 들다 들지 이거 앞에는 그 들바다 버려 죽거래 좋아를 좀 탐마성지 죽거인 집에 또 섭들식 좀 보고 대는 섭들식 좀 보도 요나 다다카시 마 낭바리 포스마 마 사자 고개로 탐지 나진의 소지 있어도 뭐 다와지 진짜 담으라 드리오 다와지 그리 대련이 뭐 동안 담으라 지는 거기에 차고 싫어 오 저다가 심지 탐지 차로 담으래지 저지가 파파 탐지들이 홍나봐 초 정보 담으래지 오 되나 차로도 쳐 못 봐라 저다도 저지 봐라더니 이제 와 이제 차고 싫어 니 줄을 소리장 가자라 빼나 따라담으라 여기 말이 되나 recited 통 recited 저 타로 다 강래 사직이 파세트과 람파르드서 봐 족좀 거요 아무서지 조사이나 더 대라서 봐 이모 족이 보라 대탐지 대탑다발라서 좀 대탐지 뛰네 근데 나랑 그 대라티네 진짜 족이니 또 듣고요 래 족이 처럼 뜻이들 사월에
So then, through my compassionate prayer, may all you beings wander in the 3 realms of samsara, escape from the 6 life forms. So all the sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsara, or the 6 realms of samsara, are called the attainable ones. But all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature on their basis, and because they are endowed with Buddha nature, they are in actuality nirmanakayas themselves. So this is where there is then no more distinction between those who tame and the tameable ones. They all are nirmanakaya emanations. So all sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara are endowed with Buddha nature. And if they are endowed with Buddha nature, they are emanations of the Buddha. They are nirmanakaya emanations. Some may hold different views, and they say, oh, I'm a Buddhist and this is not a Buddhist, or I'm a Sakya and this is a Gelokpa. They make different distinctions that arise from a self-grasping dualistic mind. And so depending on this dualistic mind, the 5 afflictive emotions arise, and in this way samsara comes into existence. So somebody who recognizes that will see that the mind of sentient beings is just like a frozen ice block, but it is same in nature of flowing water, which is likened to the mind of those who do the taming, those tamers. So the nature of ice and water is one and the same. And understanding that, one will see the closer relation between the tamers and the tameable ones. So then one will not make any distinction between certain traditions or religions. One will not engage in any bias whatsoever. So then he says, escape from the 6 million beings and escape from the 6 life forms. So in order to escape from the 6 life forms, the Buddha has taught various paths and methods. He has taught the path of the 6 paramitas, or the 7-limbed prayer, which is the antidote against the 6 afflictive emotions. So depending on this skillful myriad path, the ice block can easily be melted.
Then recited the Tawa Kangisong. I also does not subject of Jiggy Dugedi. Not a joke to it. Recto Tawa Kangisong. Someone carried it. Someone you won't talk it. You want to the Kangisong. Dadini songs. Donna Hoa Taco, Dadi the Taco, Dadi the Kariki go with it. You big a low should go. 공이 자세라리도 족보산이 인피 세면 또 단디데 이불이 인피 마도 인피가 로도 깨잖아 그도 산족처럼 뭐지 인피 로가 인피 로데 맞지바 지와세바 지와면 야바 탑라더니 다 누가 파르더서 봐도 추당지디서 강제래양 하르더서 봐도 데레티니들이 공리 패버도 저도 일하던 봐. 들이 데라서 봐. 들이 상하게 하게 일하지 봐. 데라서 봐. 공리 집어람 탔으면 되니 사제게 사람 특별히 막 그런 뭐 다들이 왕고람도 탔으면 되니 소통 하서가 남들을 봐 띵이장 남들을 봐 제가 망양 짜들 가리를 톡다 진짜 짜마주 셉지 짜주 이 피글로 톡이로 사제게 랑코바를 타는 지 탑에 탑디 뭐지 강 랑코바를 타지 제가 잠이도 초사 산지지 집고사요 하루도 서봐 독자들은 제법가리 산중지로 소소 일나도 봐 퍼버 제법가리 대바로 대바티는 도드는 사질 대바는 사질 제와오는 대바를 겨두고 샘지는 제와오는 형제리 빼라 대모 오 삼바는 형제리 대랑 그 세부 유el로 다다른 대화도 대비 지어서 대나 근데 쭉 잡아서 가는 시골에 대리들은 독내니 통보는 하더니 따를 봐 이제 들이 뒤서는 따 다지서로 톡대고 봐 대사보 양도양도 셈나 좀나 근데 가리 냠리잖아 냠리 짜도도 센터고요 때문에 사망 보려 산나다 가리 빙 빼는 데 사망 보다는 것들이 가리 망보절이 나게 진짜 가야만 해봤더니 망보 연구 열어봐 내가 이거 여기서 가르쳐 진 대화를 고쳐올 때 대바지 습기는 대화를 방금 semna lep고 와
So the suffering experienced by those untamable sentient beings within samsara, where does it come down to? All the suffering of samsara has its root in the 6 afflictive emotions. And these 6 afflictive emotions have their root in a self-grasping mind. The only method to escape from samsara is to dispel the self-grasping mind. And the only method to dispel the self-grasping mind is the altruistic mind that seeks the benefit of others. As it is said in the 37 practices, the perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So the only antidote against self-grasping is the altruistic mind of loving kindness and compassion. Conventional bodhicitta is the altruistic mind that seeks the benefit of others. And we first apply methods to give rise where it has not arisen, and to not let it decline where it has arisen, through the practice of the 6 paramitas. In a dharma or in a mundane context, we engage in a practice of the 6 paramitas, or we offer the 7-limb prayer, or in the Vajrayana tradition, we offer the 8-limb prayer. So the Buddha has taught various stages and paths according to the mental capacities of sentient beings. Mental capacities may be highest, middling, or inferior. So depending on these capacities, the Buddha has taught the different stages of the path of the individual liberation or the pratimoksha, then the bodhisattva or the Vajrayana teachings. So although the teachings are many, they all come down to one single root. As it was said, do not cut the root of phenomena or dharmas, but cut the root of the mind. So where it all comes down to is a mind of loving kindness and compassion. And so only depending on that mind, the Buddha himself has attained enlightenment. The Buddha has engaged in the accumulation of merit for 3 countless aeons. And what he was accumulating was nothing but loving kindness and compassion. He has engaged in a practice of the 6 paramitas, and ultimately love and compassion became great. And then when we practice on the 7-limb prayer, as a result of that, we give rise to perfect devotion to the 3 jewels. So in brief, it comes down to a mind of love. When it is directed towards the Buddha, it manifests as devotion, and when directed to sentient beings, this love manifests as compassion. It has one single nature, and that is the mind of love. That mind, even if it arises right now in this moment, is the cause for all happiness. So this is the root of the mind that needs to be cut. Gradually, one must determine the root of samsara, and one determines that it comes down to a mind of self-grasping. That again and again needs to be actualized and very clearly thought of, until one perfectly in the end comes to an understanding. This is the root of all the suffering. Otherwise, if we think too much and we think there are so many practices to do with this and that practice, then we experience many great difficulties and we do not really apprehend a certain practice or a certain root, a certain essence. We have to determine where do all the virtuous actions that we engage in with body and speech come down to. They come down to that devotion to the three jewels and the mind of love for all sentient beings.
당보 semji chapa vijalar pa ma charve jiang chimi thome was semji tamchen chapa go gangne zamyo ya kashi go khowa de thoma nge ra go kho thoma gangne 이 사제 ke te ra sa mare 사제 thoma me ba de ole song ra kho thoma so chu ra go mo chu rang ge da rang ge se go ne ka 말과 지방이봐 대학원에 다다랑 대발했더니 된저게 올라와 도망이 봤다 가게 돼 내가 취지도 마주서 올라와 파취도 하지는 도망이 봐 내가 사제게 도망이 봐 되자 저들아 내가 강에 담보 셈지 좀 번에 전화를 봐 마셔 저도 도미가 세 강에 진야매 봐 도미 다들 내가 탁체도 답이 미소 다가 니 걱정 배 다지 뭐 니 걱정을 못 하나다. 니 걱정 다 빼야 버려. 그래서 sem 기반이와 대리. 저쪽이 통해가 내가 말을 접해줘서. 나그 지시를 봐. 오, 선사 오지. 당가 양을 추사와래. 양 갖다 대라서 라면 소절을 나그 선사 오지 지시 바용을 대고 선 대바서 오나. 대요 때문에 다 대선 탈지. 내가 대다 지냈더니 마제나 가라요 말이 밤에 봐 밤이 방에 무게와 가요 마렵 삼는 했더니 밤에 봐지 이 가시가 쏘나 기회 또봐 기회 또봐 로마틴이 또봐 점요서 기회 로마틴이 또봐 이제 계속 오고 쏘는 게득 일에 로마틴 봐 매일 로마틴이 또봐 너무지 무기 말해. 방참에 받을 때도 세월 접도 제tam 밤에 받을 때 자고 하와 봐봐는 게 듣고요. sempre 밤에 받을 바로 해서 제약팀이 통해가.
From the beginning, you beings are deluded. Because you do not recognize the awareness of this ground. Being thus unmindful of what occurs is delusion, the very state of unawareness and the cause of going astray. So sometimes people ask, where is there a beginning of samsara? When has it all begun? But the Buddha has not determined that. The Buddha has said, since time without beginning, there is no beginning to samsara. And there is no point in looking for the beginning for samsara, because one needs to investigate the mind right now. The unaware state, the ignorant state at the present time. Right now, we must cultivate mindfulness. And if you have cultivated mindfulness in this moment, then that is sufficient. There is no need to look at the beginning of the unmindfulness. As it is said, do not cut through phenomena, but cut through the root of your mind. So there is no need to determine the beginning of samsara. There is only a need to establish mindful awareness at the present moment. When we lack mindful awareness, for example, we lack mindful awareness and we have had a day of working, and then we are very tired and we feel now I need to relax, I need to sleep. And so we feel very unhappy when we relax and when we sleep. That is mindlessness. That is a lack of mindful awareness. When one possesses mindfulness, at any moment one will be very bright and very clear. And even if there is a moment to relax, one will not waste that moment but think I will engage in Dharma activity or will recite prayers or something like that. In any case, one will sustain this state of mindfulness and heedfulness at all times. Of course, when we go to work, we get tired, and if we don't work, we don't have food to eat. But it is that mindless state, that heedlessness, that we think, oh, I'm not engaging in non-virtuous deeds, I'm just relaxing, I'm just being unmindful. But even that is obscuring the nature of the mind. Sometimes we make a distinction between three concepts that our mind is under the influence of, either virtuous, non-virtuous, or neutral. Lord Kuntuzangpo has said, though, actually, the neutral doesn't really exist. Only virtuous and non-virtuous do exist. And that is because what we call the neutral actually is ignorance, and ignorance is a non-virtue, and the non-virtue, and therefore belongs under the domain of the non-virtue thoughts. And this non-virtue thought of ignorance continuously falls down onto our mind like snowflakes falling down continuously, and continuously obscures the nature of the mind. So this state of unmindfulness, of ignorance, continuously obscures the nature of mind.
레사와 탑진이 좀 잡라 다들 해지절 람sam들이 상네들이 제가 다시 있어 홍네 그랬대라 나 차서 이런 당 빼나 총총도 이거요 빼라 다른 저들이 매도가 잘라서라 너희 장부 주권을 장부도 네 장부지 진정상 제 람상지 세고 그래 가리 정상제로 띵아 살로 다 조건들 되네. 제 나기도 조건들 다 내봐도 돼서 용천이 다지 디바스게 빼나 잡아주는 약합대 다들 정도 이거래. 다 못하기는 강화 요지 나도 다들 좀 보고 매다버 감이 다들 좀 뭐도 로또 통째 버리네. 나가 매다 좀 양타하는 펄고 비지데 다들 좀 와도 좀때 다 정말 강화들 좀 놓아 좀 라고 조건을 나서 정말은지 다지기 좀 했더니 다대라 나자시 바사대주 다 정상제 될 때는 다지 차당 똑바지 지금 나한테도 또 가래 그런 잡았다 족도 용이 될 맞춰봐 직장 말 되는 높아지는 마당 직장 말 차당 똑바지 될 다지 다든지 박차름 저때 봐래 코발 없은 쪽 봤어 다지도 다달류들 때 다지도 윤자 따는 거 정말 다 상이 시타라요. 이 다지도 좋은 맛이나 류들 자소는야 먼저도 뭐 족 매와라 소와 뒤시 유지 납시 참아요가 다다가 류 강에 치다 다달리 정랑치 다달리 강에 동에 치와들이 다 요거요 코발 없은 쪽 봤어
And so it says, from this elusive state comes the sudden fainting away and a subtle consciousness of wavering fear. From that wavering there arises a separation of self and the perception of others as enemies. For example, when we fall into a state of deep sleep, then we fall unconscious, we faint away. Or if it is just a sudden thought arising within our mind, we immediately think, oh, there is self and there is others. Then when there is self and others, a dualistic fixation, then there is an attachment to the self and an aversion against the others. And even the slightest cause will lead to attachment and aversion. For example, when you're close to a nice flower and then suddenly a bee flies, comes here, and so then you are very afraid. You think the bee will bite you. And actually that's a very small cause, but because you have an attachment to your body, even a small harm like that, you have a strong aversion, and then so you go and kill the bee, because you don't want the bee to sting you. So that is due to this grasping and the identification we have towards our own body. So in the same way, a king is identifying with his country and taking care of the country, or a householder is taking care of one's family. anything one identifies with causes an attachment to the self and an aversion against others. And that is the purpose of offering the mandala, offering everything that we possess, all our possessions, even our body again and again, as this offering diminishes self-grasping. All the grasping that we experience mainly in dependence on our own body. Depending on our own body, we give rise to an attachment to the self and an aversion against others. So when we have an aversion against others, then this in itself is a sign of the attachment to the self. So when we have a body, there is really no one who has no attachment to the self and no aversion for the others. So then here it continues. Gradually, the tendency of separation strengthens, and from this the circle of samsara begins. So at the time of death, if we have not separated ourselves from self-grasping, although we will separate from our bodies, still the other four aggregates will be present. The aggregates of feelings, perception, formation, and consciousness. All the aggregates apart from the body are still present, and the suffering and difficulty we experience are even stronger than the suffering we experience now in this lifetime, as long as we have the body.
시와게 다니 차당 야 자라 나가 이는 차와 이 참말이 요리 충충년은 칼라 카버강 사나야 이 좀먼저 좀 잡아라 이 좀먼저 야 나와라 저래더니 야 가양 제게 면은 내 자와 호빈 이 사와들 당에 저한테 제고 같은 접라 삼지 제와리 때 잡아라 다들 럭 하고요 저는 야 똑바리 차와 그래도 인가 지와 차당이야 이제 바탕에 발랑 semte junche me bacheyo junche me bacheyo te que 제가 가르쳐 레사 약바테 탐지 서쪽에 뒤작요 말 레사 사 킹게 뉴몬 바 제가 세븐네 된거 마셔 내로 된 nemrot네 메도 사오리 샘도 사는 게 지는 사오리 내잖아 남식진당 전에들이 제와 저라고 강속해야 돼. 지랑왕으로 도와주고 제와 랑들이 동네에 사오지 맞에 받대. 때문에도 직전에 야기를 마마 털고 받고 그래. 용고요. 그 동네를 주체미 강기 쪽으로 재미 말하기 연습했어. 심대서 습지 좀 재미 말하기 연습했어. 또 제밤에 좀 찌뿌려야지.
Then the emotions of the five poisons develop. The actions of these emotions are endless. So once we abide within samsara and engage in samsaric activities, if we lack mindful awareness and if we lack bodhicitta, then continuously the afflictive emotions will arise within our mind, and continuously we will engage in action and accumulate karma without an end. Continuously there is an attachment to the close ones, the friends, and an aversion against others, like the enemies. And that even manifests in a very small situations, like in terms of food. When there is some food that we like, we have an attachment to nice foods. And then there is food we don't like, and we have an aversion, and we don't want that food. Or it is any hopes or expectations that we have, and we think, I need to do this, or I need to do that, need to accomplish this, accomplish that. And we have an attachment in terms of our own accomplishments. Then we have doubts, this will be difficult to be accomplished. That is a doubt or a fear. So those hopes and fears are also nothing but thoughts of attachment and aversion. So these thoughts of attachment and aversion continuously, uninterruptedly arise within our minds. So we engage in action depending on those thoughts, and those actions are endless. They cannot be counted. They abide within our minds like seeds, like the seeds of a flower. And for as long as the seed abides within the mind, and until the seed comes to an end, we will experience the fruitions of these seeds, just like a growing flower. Then whatever of those afflictions is dominant, is the strongest, will determine where we will take a rebirth, anywhere within the 6 realms of samsara, and there we will experience the particular suffering for as long as this seed remains within our mind stream. Where all that comes down to, the entire fault lies within a state of unmindfulness, unawareness, or ignorance. So the only fault that creates all that is a unmindful mind.
사제가요 보나요 군제를 빠랑시 줘서 빠공시 빠고 빠 제시를 빠도 누나 바래요 야 제시를 빠는 배는 타풍은 매요나 나또다 좀 강지한테 차다고 똑바로 좋고요. 오 대탑제 사람이가 힘보면 하고 참아 됐더니 매를 줘도 그러네. 버식작제대 제만 매가 참아 내서 줘 지시 봐요나 너무 바탐지 안 되시니까 도요래 지선을 꾸절 빠랑시 줘서 빠랑오시 봐 줘서
So therefore, Samantha Bhagavad says, and you beings lack awareness because you are unmindful, and this is the basis of your going astray. Through my prayer, may all you beings recognize your intrinsic awareness. If one possesses this mindful awareness, it is just like the blazing of fire on a stove. Whatever afflictive emotions or thoughts arise within that mind, attachment, aversion, and so forth, they will transform into mindful awareness. Just like when you throw firewood into the fire, the wood itself transforms into fire. So recognizing this, one realizes that all those activities in this world lack any essence. All the thoughts in the mind that arise, they lack any true essence. So understanding that, one will recognize all those thoughts arising in the mind, and they themselves will transform into mindfulness, just like firewood transforming into fire when placed into the fire. So in this way, we will discontinue to engage in action which are unmindful. These afflictive emotions and concepts that arise are recognized with mindful awareness and thus transform into wisdom. So therefore, Kuntuzangpo says, may all you beings recognize your own intrinsic awareness. May you sustain mindfulness.
안 꺼도도 뭐라 로 맞아 로 제시 좀 양상도 로
And so Rinpoche says as a dedication, let's read the prayer from Kuntuzangpo.
좋아야 소리다. 제시 잡들 좋아시 모여래.
Because when you have received the explanation, it becomes very flavorful.
Voilà, on se passe pour le temps. Ouais. Que je parle à ce moment. C'est des trucs de beau. Rang simple, n'est l'autre. De là. So, de rang sharp. Rang, c'est n'est l'autre. On dans le des sont là. Rang, shibari. Rang, quand il se dit, Rasim Sangye Yinjang Woma Shiz, Namto Chuko Yinjang Woma Song. Tera Rasim Sangye, Raga Santa Sangye in the Tercer, Sharp Raga Tokyo, Tama Shibare. Then all she's on Raga Seven Nero, Ponsona, take it, Ting on the Sharman, Namto, Chuko, Namto, Yumo. Ishile Jodo, Kuntuzangpo Naji. You more Ishile Jodo, more Shila, Mashila, you more Benesa, Loato, Champi Jera. Report how she did it. Each of it. When you report how she also.
So, my Dharma friends, yesterday we have come to the line here on page 8 where it says in the first paragraph, through my prayer may all you beings recognize your intrinsic awareness. And so it is referring to recognizing one's own Buddha nature, recognizing through wisdom or mindfulness one's own face, as Milarepa has said, to recognize the yogi who recognizes one's own face. He has referred to that yogi who is recognizing the nature of the mind. Sentient beings fail to recognize their own face, their own true nature, which is the Buddha, which is the Dharmakaya in essence. So it comes down to whether or not one recognizes this state, although it is always present. If one recognizes one's own true nature, one recognizes the nature of one's mind, then all the concepts that arise within that mind will transform, will become the Dharmakaya. Afflictive emotions are transformed into wisdom, and that is referred to as Samantabhadra. Many afflictive emotions are transformed into wisdom. Failing to recognize this nature, one continues to grasp at those afflictive emotions, engage in karma or action, and therefore continue to wander in the 6 realms of samsara. Therefore, it is crucial to recognize one's own true nature.
Today, Maripa Jokan, Maripa Niris, good one. She keep a Maripa Shiba Trimi, you want go to top of Maripa, Daji is at the by so. She keep a solo. One age in Maripa, the Kawado, the Maripa, the same Kaka Yoma, same Karaga Rashi, the Ranga, the Shiba Salo, and Shabata Pari. Then Mani Uka, Mani, Rang Ramsa Kiri, Petty, Rang Ramsa. 하나는 호텔을 라를 갖다를 줘요 우리 배나 다시 반대 갖다 말을 배도 남시다 이게 제발지 다다 시베 시바사고 담말 시바 내려한 거라 네 오를 때잖아 그 ram진 게 사동소도 차고 이거래 사동소도 차가 들으더니 담만 봐서 좀 찍어요 동바 차고 대가 좀 맞지나 ram진 Rāra kāngsāra te sātōngsō tō rāñjī spākho rāñjī tā mārikpa kākāla yō mārī sō ngūne ki nā te lēnchī kipa mārikpa āsō dōn nā sēr tāng yāñjī tō sō sēr tāng yāñjī kākā mārī kākā mēngi chak tō te kāp tā te mā tōngu chā tō yō yō rī pērē sēr tērā kādō māñi bā te sā jōrō kōrī te tā rō sēr tā sēr tērā sēr yāyōrwa, yādi, sēr tē tē tā kādō jōrōgōrwa, samtante yādā chār pēkē.
Sēr chāk tērā.
Sēr tē kādō tērā, sēr kōrāna jōrā yōrwa tē sēr tā, yādi kādō tē jīn rāma tā tērā, sēr kādō tē yā drāk mōrī pētē tāra, sēr kōrāna rāshī mā tō, mārikpa kākā yō mārī sē, kākā mēwā, nī mēwā tēnī hākō kōrē. Dōrā? 납작을 한 게 18랑 오늘 첫 때에서는 똥상수 놓으려래. 말바다리 요별이고 원래 통기 통지 이메가 있던 이메기 해서 대라 되는 신직집에 세분대로 말할 것 같아. 신직집에 말할 것 같아. 시바 집안 매봐. 다또 타마 가자 시바래. 나도 샤를 나도 대체고도 때문에들이 봐. 집안에 봤는데 밥에 받쳐야 되네. 로마티도 또 봐서 시바 집에 영화에 될 것도 또 말할 거야. 나진 있었던 말이야. 뒤는 안 마오 참바 샤랑 사람들이 이다 다지 들이 되는 거들이 생기던 이 있었던 바데 나도 이 될 차다고 봤잖아요. 나지 있었던 바데 그것도 답고 말할 거예요. 그것도 답고 말할 거야. 나지 있었던 바에 찍고 다 말해 셉지 근저 철저히 있어. 셉지 담지 되니 나지 있더라더니 다시 인상들라 이거 제만 제네 림바리서 내가 대바로 차대요래 되는 지네더니 고바송을 해서 그리고 또 많이 생기고 있는 주지에서
imputing on awareness means dualistic thoughts towards self and others. So the cause of ignorance, the cause of samsara, which is ignorance, is twofold: is innate ignorance and imputing ignorance. The innate ignorance in